When you hear the name Wolfmother, I can pretty much guarantee that you immediately start hearing the main riff of Joker and the Thief, and to a lesser extent the vocals on their second biggest song, Woman, in your head. You're likely also visualising Andrew Stockdale's big hair. Wolfmother were absolutely enormous, appearing pretty much out of thin air to hold the airwaves and TV music channels hostage with their fairly derivative take on Led Zeppelin and Black Sabbath. This was before streaming and Bluetooth capability in cars, where the only reprieve would be to flip through your CD folder and find literally anything else to listen to if you were in the car or driving in silence, instead listening to the tunes of future car repairs waiting to happen. If you were lucky enough to be travelling in a car with an older male family member, probably a Holden Commodore or maybe a Ford Falcon, you were likely forced to listen to a CD of their self-titled album, which is arguably worse than hearing Joker and the Thief a mere 4 times an hour on the radio. Then, all of a sudden, as quickly as it came, they'd let go of the airwaves and disappeared like a fart in the wind. It probably goes without saying at this point, but I've never really cared for Wolfmother. However, I don't hate them either, despite this overly critical introduction. Once in a blue moon, I hear Joker and the Thief and wonder to myself what happened to this once extremely promising but overplayed rock band. Stay a while as I delve into the history and downfall of Wolfmother. Wolfmother began in the year 2000 when founding members Andrew Stockdale, Chris Ross and Miles Heskett started playing together. While they jammed for a few years, Stockdale worked as a photographer, Ross worked digital media and Heskett worked as a graphic designer. The band officially formed in 2004. Wolfmother played live for the first time on the 14th of April of 2004 at a pub in Sydney. The group was signed by Australian independent label Modular Recordings in August of 2004, eventually releasing their self-titled debut EP in September. The EP made a splash at number 35 on the ARIA singles chart. The band toured in support of the release for about 6 months, during which time they signed an international recording deal with Universal Music Group. After recording a demo for Interscope Records in Sydney, Wolfmother flew over to the States and began recording their full-length debut studio album in California with producer Dave Sardi in May of 2005. The band rehearsed for 6 weeks at Cherokee Studios before recording at Sound City, Pass, and Sunset Sound Studios. The producer took a minimalist approach to production with the aim to capture the raw nature of the band's live shows, choosing to prioritise the perfect feeling over a faultless performance. That's pretty pretentious if you ask me. Mind's Eye was released as the first single from the upcoming debut album on the 16th of October 2005, peaking at number 29 on the Australian singles chart. Wolfmother was released in Australia by Modular on the 31st of October 2005, reaching a commendable number 3 on the ARIA charts, remaining on the chart for a total of 78 weeks. Critics were fond of the album, scoring anywhere between 7 and upwards. By the end of 2007, the album had been certified 5 times platinum by the ARIAs, with sales exceeding 350,000 units, later selling a whopping 1 million units. The album also received a J Award. It went on to be nominated for the ARIA Award for Album of the Year in 2006, but instead won the awards for Breakthrough Artist, Album, and Best Rock Album. 8 of the album's songs were included on the Triple J Hottest 100 lists in 2004 through to 2006. I did tell you that we couldn't escape them in Australia. In support of the album, the band toured through Australia in October and November of 2005. They also performed at the Big Day Out Festival in January and February of 2006. After its success in Australia, Wolfmother was later released internationally in early 2006, where it reached number 25 on the UK Albums Chart, reaching number 22 on the Billboard 200 in the US. A number of singles were released from the album, including Woman, which reached number 34 in Australia, number 31 on the UK Singles Chart, and number 7 on the US Billboard Mainstream Rock Chart. The song would go on to win the Grammy Award for Best Hard Rock Performance at the 49th Annual Grammy Awards. The band described the win as an honour. The final single from the album, Joker and the Thief, reached the top 10 in Australia. The subsequent worldwide tour included appearances at festivals such as Fuji Rock in Tokyo, Japan, the inaugural Virgin Festival, and Reading and Leeds festivals in the UK. The band members were hard at work in 2007, trying their best to outdo themselves to continue their onslaught on our ears for years to come. One of the new tracks revealed as in the works was Love Attacker, later released as Pleased to Meet You on the Spider-Man 3 soundtrack in March of 2007. Stockdale described the new material as cinematic and epic, predicting that the resulting album would be released in early 2008. In September of 2007, the band released Please Experience Wolfmother Live, which reached number 7 in Australia and was certified platinum by ARIA. After their performance at Splendour in the Grass in August of 2008, it was reported that Wolfmother looked tense and weren't talking with each other, leading to rumours that the band were going to break up. This was all off the back of previous drama with long-standing frictions within the group that led them to take an extended break during the second half of 2007 to consider their future, but they later regrouped to work on a new album. Days later, it was confirmed that the band had split up. It was reported that Ross had left the band straight after the Splendor in the Grass performance due to irreconcilable personal and musical differences, with Heskett leaving soon after as he would rather leave than remain in the band without Ross. Ross and Heskett would go on to work together on several musical projects including The Slough and Good Heavens. The cracks in the Wolfmother project were starting to appear. Stockdale returned to recording the second Wolfmother album in Los Angeles a week later, working briefly with Patrick Keeler. After returning to Australia, he enlisted all new members for Wolfmother Phase 2. The new members were officially welcomed in on the 5th of January 2009 before performing their first live shows under the alias White Feather in February. Recording for a new album commenced in March with producer Alan Moulder, with Stockdale describing the material as a little bit heavier. The first song released by the second coming of Wolfmother was Back Round on the 30th of March 2009. After the rest of the album was recorded, New Moon Rising debuted on Triple J in August and was later released as the album's lead single. The album, Cosmic Egg, was released internationally by Modular in October of the same year. The album was recorded between April and May of 2009 at Sound City Studios and Sunset Sound Studios in Los Angeles. It was another commercial success, reaching number 3 in Australia, number 16 in the US, and number 35 in the UK. Most critics enjoyed the album, with a couple outlets scoring 4 out of 10 or unfavourable. The album went platinum in Australia, shifting upwards of 70,000 units. However, it was nowhere near as much of a commercial success as the self-titled album. Cosmic Egg was supported on the New Moon Rising World Tour, which started in Australia and later visited North America and Europe. The group also supported AC/DC on the Black Ice World Tour in Australia. The following year, the album was nominated in the Classic Rock and Roll of Honor Awards for Album of the Year, although it didn't win. At the end of March in 2010, it was announced that drummer Dave Atkins had left the band. A press release was later issued explaining that the drummer had decided to leave the band to spend much needed time at home with his family. It was announced at the same time that Atkins' replacement would be Will Rockwell Scott. The group continued to tour with Rockwell Scott, although they had to cancel a string of European dates, including a number of festival appearances in June and July, due to an unspecified illness suffered by Stockdale. The following January and February, the band performed at Big Day Out in Australia and New Zealand. Wolfmother began working on their third studio album in March of 2011. In May and June, they toured Europe, performing new material from the upcoming album for the first time. Stockdale was interviewed in June, revealing that approximately 12 or 13 songs had been completed and that he was self-producing the album. The release date of the album was estimated as early 2012, with a number of shows taking place in Australia in promotion. With little in the way of news of the new album, in February of 2012, both Nemeth and Rockwell Scott left Wolfmother. Stockdale claimed at the time that the former had chosen to focus on engineering, while the latter was forced to leave due to health concerns. It was also rumoured that there were more irreconcilable differences with Stockdale. Surprise, surprise. The following month, it was reported that former Vines drummer Hamish Rosser had joined the band. Around the same time, new rhythm guitarist Vince Steele replaced Nemeth, and keyboardist and percussionist Elliot Hammond also joined the group. Both members' departures were compared in the media to those of original members Ross and Heskett, although Stockdale had denied these accusations that he was to blame for former members leaving the group. That's pretty hard to believe considering Stockdale is the common denominator here. The new 5-piece lineup continued recording material for the new album, which was delayed further for a 2013 release. In March of 2013, Stockdale announced that he would not be releasing the new album under Wolfmother. Describing the project as a different trip now, he revealed to Billboard magazine in April that the album would be released as his solo debut with the title Keep Moving in June. Long Way to Go was released as the lead single from the album. Stockdale later elaborated on the decision to cease using the Wolfmother name. He noted that his desire to self-produce an album played a part in the change, adding the band had a big producer in line to work on their third album, but he wanted to release the material he had already recorded, and so he decided to do so under his own name. Keep Moving reached number 32 on the Australian Albums Chart, a significant slide down the charts from number 3 under the Wolfmother name. 2 months after going solo, it was announced that Wolfmother were due to return. The news was broken when Stockdale's solo shows were cancelled, shortly before a number of Wolfmother shows in the US were announced in their place. Sounds like things were not panning out for Stockdale as a solo artist. In an interview with Triple M in 2014, Stockdale claimed that he did not intend to drop the Wolfmother name permanently, but instead that it had been temporarily shelved for Keep Moving. Shortly after Wolfmother proper returned, Rosser left and Hammond moved on to drumming duties. However, just a month later, Hammond himself left as well, with scheduling conflicts with his other band, the Delta Rigs. Years later in an interview, Hammond claimed that the announcement was in fact a publicity angle to smooth it over, alluding to the fact that he and Stockdale did not see eye to eye on a number of things, including the time that Stockdale took off for London, requesting his bandmates to fly over to rehearse. He was replaced briefly by Tony McCall, who left just a few weeks later due to personal reasons. Greg Bissonette was briefly enlisted to record drums with the band, ultimately having his part scrapped. In November of 2013, Wolfmother returned after a short hiatus for the first time since 2008, with rhythm guitarist Vince Steele moving over to drums. The new album, New Crown, was released without any warning on the 24th of March 2014 as a digital download on Bandcamp. To me, this is an incredibly bold move after losing loads of band members, including a long 5-year gap between albums under the Wolfmother name and on Bandcamp with no promotion at all. Self-produced by Stockdale, New Crown was also self-released by the band without a record label. Stockdale complained that it's a very long process getting anything done when working with a music label. Despite the lack of promotion, New Crown charted on the US Billboard 200 at number 160. The album was recorded at Mates Rehearsal Studios in California and The Shed in Byron Bay. The album was pretty mid according to critics, with one critic calling out the poor production, stating, "The vocals are inconsistent, the guitar's limp, the drums muffled. Bass comes and goes depending on the volume of the other instruments. Tracks are recorded at different volumes and mastered differently. After listening to some of the songs myself, the production is definitely all over the place and could have done with some direction from a seasoned producer." The album sold 10,000 copies in the US as of 2016, a far cry from the 70,000 plus of Cosmic Egg. However, it's important to remember that Spotify was becoming extremely popular in the 2010s. Even then, The New Crown only has a few songs over 1 million streams. The album was promoted on tour in North America during the months after its release. Wolfmother's self-titled debut album was re-released in September of 2015 to help celebrate its 10th anniversary. The re-release contains 5 B-sides and 15 rare tracks, including 11 previously unreleased recordings. It's an album for superfans, if any still existed, I guess. In February of 2016, the band's 4th album, Victorious, was released. The album, this time produced by Brendan O'Brien, features guest drumming from Josh Freese and Joey Waronker, in addition to Ian Perez on keyboards. This one was recorded at Henson Recording Studios in Hollywood under music label UME. The new offering came in at number 17 on the Australian Albums Chart, charting in the top 100 in other regions as well. This album sounds so much better than New Crown. Critics were mixed to positive with this one, scoring a 61 on Metacritic. Stockdale should definitely stay away from production duties. Several songs off the album have upwards of 7 million streams. Wolfmother promoted Victorious on the Gypsy Caravan tour, which featured Alex Karapetis on drums. In July of 2016, the group supported Guns N' Roses at 2 of their US dates. They later returned for shows in Australia and New Zealand in early 2017. With the Victorious touring cycle out of the way, Hamish Rosser returned to Wolfmother. In March of 2017, Stockdale released a self-produced song called Special Lady, which he recorded on a laptop using the program GarageBand and only a vocal microphone. Back to the poor production quality of New Crown, having learned none of the lessons from New Crown's poor release. This was followed in November by the single Freedom Is Mine, recorded and produced at Stockdale's home studio in Byron Bay, and Happy Wolfmother's Day in May of 2018. Perez left the band in early 2018 after 9 years, choosing to tour with Xavier Rudd instead. Wolfmother performed with multiple touring lineups of the group since Perez's departure. In September 2018, Stockdale released his second solo album, Slipstream, which he promoted on a short concert tour. His second attempt at a solo effort did not perform well as well. In April of 2019, Stockdale began recording for a 5th Wolfmother album at Dave Grohl's Studio 606 in LA. This album, titled Rock and Roll Baby, ended up being released on the 29th of December 2019. 7 songs in length with a runtime of 23 minutes. The album is poorly recorded and produced by Stockdale, just like New Crown. Anything he produces is just not good enough, greatly benefiting from professional producers. None of the songs have cracked 1 million streams on Spotify, and the album didn't chart. Wolfmother's most recent, and again to my disbelief, self-produced album, Rock Out, was released in November of 2021. This album fared no better than Rock and Roll Baby or New Crown, however some songs sound slightly better than some others in terms of production, getting the balance of the vocals and the instruments just right. The album did not chart and failed to do well on Spotify yet again. On the 11th of January 2023, Stockdale performed under the name Wolfmother with Dutch band Pace Shifters as his backing band in Paradiso, Amsterdam. The general consensus is that fans loved the first album and then noticed how derivative the music was and the lack of quality control as each release came out. One Reddit user had the following to say: "Their first album is a masterpiece, honestly one of my favourite rock albums ever. They did a great job of, as others mentioned here, balancing those influences rather than copying them. Every song sounds like a different mix of different bands from the classic rock era without ever quite sounding like anything specific. You can never quite put your finger on it. By the second album, the rhythm section had parted ways with the singer and he kept the band name. If I recall correctly, it was over creative differences. And from that point on, Stockdale just kind of did his own thing, which was heavily Black Sabbath and Ozzy Osbourne influenced. The rhythm section became stripped back and simple and lost a lot of appeal in my opinion. Referring to new era Wolfmother song released in 2020, some Reddit users summed Wolfmother up with, "Yeah, this is bad, but let's be honest, Wolfmother has sucked for a while now," and "I swear it went to, wow, I love this kind of music, let's check this Sabbath thing that inspired them," to "here's a big pile of shit." Wolfmother shot to fame with an enormous first album pretty much universally praised by rock fans. Despite the success and praise, creative differences clashing with Stockdale's vision of the band led to numerous band members coming and going over the past 2 decades. It's clear to me that Wolfmother is the Andrew Stockdale show. However, some of the magic that made that first album so popular was lost along the way, with an enormous drop-off in the quality of each subsequent release. Apart from the album Victorious, which was a return to form, but any momentum gained was ultimately squandered afterward by Stockdale's poor production and capabilities. It's easy to understand why Stockdale chooses to self-produce and independently release, as he's not beholden to a label or producer that might screw up his vision. However, it's clear that he needs help with production and would benefit from other creative input. Wolfmother could have been the biggest rock band in Australia. Thanks for watching.